Hey everybody, it's Owen here from D20, um, and you'll notice that below me there's another face. Some of you might know who that is. If you don't know who it is? That's Jay. That's Jay from the old days. At the D20 club. Jay, I've known Jay since he was a wee bairn. He must have been about 3 or 4 when I taught him to play his first game of HeroClix. So, which was what that was about 4 years ago, because he's only like 8 years old now, right? Is that right, Jay?
That is definitely correct,
Yeah.
but I do read at a 9-year-old level,
Well,
which is
that's
great.
that's for the
At least
best.
it's
That's good.
something.
That's
Yeah,
super smart.
thanks to Heraclix.
Yeah, no, exactly. Heroclix will teach you to read. If nothing else, it'll teach you to read.
And math. It
That's true. It
teaches
will.
you great math.
It will help you with that. And back in the days when D20 was a club, was a physical venue, Jay was one of our demigods. I was the god, the geek on duty, and Jay was one of my demigods. He was our first demigod. Um,
And been there
that's right.
a long time.
That's right. He used to come and bother me all the time at work. So eventually, I just made him wear an apron and put him to work making coffee. But he's still
Great.
around. What are you doing these days, Jay?
I am now a graphic designer from digital marketing agency. I went full crazy real job.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Nice.
super fancy.
And they haven't figured out yet that you're completely incompetent. They haven't made that connection yet.
And no, at least earn enough to pay the people to do the competition. So it looks legit.
Hey, whatever works. That's cool.
Capitalism, man.
Right, right. That's totally awesome. Right, so we're here today to talk about an article that Jay brought to my attention. So this requires a little bit of introduction. So this article is written by somebody that we know, Monique Bernick, who used to be a regular at the club. Let me pull up the article so we can see it. There we go. We're not going to go through it just yet, but just so you can see. So she runs this blog, Openized Geek. Monique is a Magic player. In fact, I could be wrong, but I seem to recall that either you or I, Jay, taught Monique to play her first game of Magic at the club. I could be wrong about that, but it was something like that. She played Magic at the club for a long time. She was a regular at the
I
club.
can't vouch for
Yeah, but for years and years she played at the club, and now she's still very involved in playing Magic. She pretty much runs the Commander format Magic scene at the Nexus, which is a big Magic venue up in Joburg. It's probably the biggest in Joburg, quite possibly the biggest in South Africa. I couldn't swear to that, but I think it's not unlikely. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely something that's very unique, if not rare.
hmm.
I'm sure that there are others, but it's on a really large scale, which makes it so awesome.
Right, exactly. I mean, I haven't seen anything else like that. Certainly not down here, and there certainly isn't anything like that in Joburg. So Nexus is a prestigious place to play Magic, and Monique is an important name up in that community. I don't think she works for the Nexus in any kind of professional capacity, as far as I know, but she's certainly involved in promoting the Commander Magic scene there. She's very active, and anybody who's played Commander at Nexus in the last year or so who's Monique knows who Monique is. And yeah, so she's an acquaintance and a friend of ours. We've known her for a long time. We don't always agree on things, but when we've had
That's what sharing ideas is for, right? Like having these conversations that aren't
yes,
just being had.
precisely. So it's
Yeah.
worth noting that even though Monique and I have spoken about the kinds of things that this article is about before, that's always been in the context of a service provider, me, and a paying customer, Monique. So I've had to sort of hold back a little bit and not to be too strident in my views and my disagreements. That's not to say that
You're
I'm
abused. I don't want to be involved in any form of abuse.
no, no, no,
No,
no,
thank
no,
you.
no abuse. No, 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 nothing like that. But in my my positions and my views, I've had to sort of
We need
hold.
to add a disclaimer now. We will not incite violence on anybody.
That's true. That's true. We do not incite violence, and any disagreement that we might have with Monique's position. To be clear, I haven't read the article yet, Jay. I think you've read it, but I haven't read it at all.
I have, yeah, briefly.
I think I know what it says, but we'll find out in a few minutes. And if it says what I think it says, then we disagree pretty strongly on some of the core issues here. But that's okay. That doesn't mean I have any less affection for Monique, and that's not to say that she's not deserving of her views. The fact that we're giving her the time of giving her this analysis of her article should be taken as a sign of respect for her and for her views and for her place in the community, because we think that those things are important. Do you have anything
Correct.
else you need to, any other disclaimers you need to say up front, Jay?
No, I think you worded that very well. It's like we know each other and we have respect for each other. This isn't to try and cause any conflict.
Right, right.
And so it is out of respect that we challenge your views or bring up our own opinions so that it continues to spark this conversation with people.
Precisely. And we have, neither of us have tried to communicate with Monique directly about this article yet. Although, I mean, Monique, if you're watching this, I don't think Monique watches this channel. But if this ever finds her way to, if this video ever finds its way to Monique, hi Monique, hi. This is just us starting the conversation. This should be taken in lieu of just posting a text comment underneath the article, which is what most people would do. But we thought it might be fun to have a conversation about it on a video instead of doing that. So this is not any kind of an attack or anything like that. In case we get a bit mean, which is possible.
I think what's great about this is that it's not us really targeting her, but it's more us targeting the issue, and it's a conversation that we're starting, so we're demonstrating how these would go and to try and promote that sort of thing. Exactly. So yeah, I think this is a lot less violent than posting a long thread within the comment section where emotion gets confused. And next thing you know, Magic communities are up in arms.
That's true. Yes, yeah. I like the video format because it allows us to convey our sense of emotive context, which isn't, as you say, it's not really all that clear in text format. But when you're actually hearing our voices and seeing our faces, then you can get an idea of how we feel about what we're seeing. All right. So, unless there's anything else we need to say, let's jump in. Let's take a look at the article.
Jump in.
So it's called Opinion: Girl Gamers and Toxic Community Perceptions. As many of you know by now, I'm an active member in the local Magic the Gathering community, running regular events at a recently qualified level 1 judge. Oh, congrats, by the way, Monique. I know that happened recently. So good job. Nicely done. I've been playing Magic consistently for 5 years or so, and it's a large part of my current personal identity. I've also started playing online multiplayer games, Counter-Strike Global Offensive mainly, in the hopes of leveling up my skills and situational awareness to better my single-player gameplay. Cool. I haven't played CSGO. Have you played that, Jay?
I have. I've played quite a few hours. The first-person shooter, it's really good. Yeah, nice. I have played it. That's basically it.
Nice. This weekend, I've attended my first Judges Conference. I assume that's the Magic Judges Conference, where the topic of gender balance in the Magic community was brought up. I've been to one of these conferences before, and I think it's safe to say that topic comes up at every single Judges Conference. It's not only a topic that is... it's a hot button topic within the judges community, but it's also something that, from what I gather, Wizards of the Coast kind of requires, needs to be talked about often within the judges community. They have strong feelings about this and they want this to be talked about frequently. So it doesn't at all surprise me that it came up.
Well, I'm sure we're going to be discussing many of the points to
Indeed.
sort of rebuttal that statement.
Quite right. To put this into a very real perspective, of the attendees at the event, I was the only female judge present. That also doesn't surprise me, having met the Magic judges in this country, at least some of them. I don't think any of them are female, except of course for Monique. Carrying on. There were 2 other girls who were there with the aim of becoming judges. That's good. Prospective judges are good. So this was already indicative of the lack of gender balance in Magic, a game where males and females should be on a level footing as competitors. Okay.
I don't disagree that they not should be, but if they are at the same level, it's great. Like they should be given the same opportunity to play. Same tournament.
Quite right. I'm just passing that statement to see if there's anything. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's an intellectual competition, right? So you're using your brain to compete. Yeah, makes sense that people should be, at least in theory, on a level footing. I agree. Okay, carrying on. This got me thinking, as there is a strong correlation between how women are treated in Magic and how they are treated in an online game such as CSGO. Okay, I think we're getting into a slightly shakier waters here because yes, CS:GO is an online game. It is a primarily male-focused game, from what I understand. Most first-person shooters tend to be. I think the only
Yeah.
exception is Overwatch, which is, if not mostly female players, it's the most popular first-person shooter among women. I'm not sure of the stats on that, but this is what I've heard. And there are other games that are perhaps a majority female players, like League of Legends.
Whoa!
No, for real. No, for real. I'm not saying that League of Legends is for girls,
You
but
just attacked the whole League of Legends group, man.
what are you saying, that there's something wrong with games for girls, Jay?
Oh wow, that flipped, that escalated
Wow.
so fast.
Wow, Jay. Wow.
No, now let's move on.
So what I'm getting at here is that the CS:GO community might not be a good example of what online gaming communities are like in general. First-person shooters tend to be very male dominated overall, with a couple of notable exceptions, but not all online games are like that.
But I think what they're trying to fight is like, why aren't there more females in those games?
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like you're suggesting that they should go play the more female-dominated games. Whereas,
I suggested no such
like-
thing, Jay. I suggested. I mean, it's
and that if there are full male games such as Counter-Strike that you can't compare it to, then they should be more female. So I think that's the narrative they're trying to push.
Possibly. I mean, I know that Overwatch, with Overwatch, Blizzard try very hard to attract a female audience. I mean, since the game launched, if I'm not mistaken, every single new hero that's been added to the game since launch, with the exception of 2, if I'm not mistaken, all of them have been female. And female characters typically are aimed at a female audience. That's neither a good thing nor a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's a fact about the game. I don't know if that's also true of League of Legends, but I know that that's a very popular game with women. It's just a fact. It's just facts. It's just facts. Whereas
Facts don't care about your feelings.
That's right. Whereas Counter-Strike just happens to be a very male-dominated game. Is Counter-Strike sort of a military-style first-person shooter? I'm not clear on it.
Yeah, it's where you play either a terrorist or a soldier to defuse the bomb. Very military. It's just rounds after round. There's no actual like role-playing element to it or character building.
Okay, it's this is the one that started off as a Half-Life mod, isn't it? The original.
I can't. I don't know.
Okay, might be before your time. Never mind. Okay.
I forget. I'm only 8.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we're getting into the weeds here. We're getting off topic. Let's carry on. All right. Before you keyboard warriors get upset with me, remember the points I'm raising now are based on my first-hand experience. Okay. Sure. Right. Personal experience is important. Let's be careful not to extrapolate from anecdote to data. Those two things are not the same. But okay.
Yeah.
I do not
like,
need.
This is like, it basically goes back to facts don't care what you like. Yeah, just because you felt a certain way doesn't mean that determines how everybody is being treated or feels about this.
Quite right. I do not need you to mansplain matters to me, as this is literally the reality of what I and other women and non-binary members of gaming communities face. Mansplain. Yo. That's...
Yeah, that was like, that made me think. She thinks that no female is great. There's no female that wants to disagree with her on this topic.
Yeah.
So it's only men that are going to comment on this because all women feel the same way I do. I speak for all women on this topic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even at that half of the sentence yet. I'm stuck on the word mansplain. That's a pretty shockingly sexist word to use, Monique. Yo. Wow. Okay. Sorry, Monique, but your credibility score just dropped a little bit. That's wow. Wow. And it appears to be used unironically. Sure. Okay, I need to take a breath before we continue to the rest of that sentence.
It was just branded on there. Just like, before you read further, this is what you're doing if you disagree.
Okay, all right. All right, let's see. What does the rest of it say? Okay. This is literally the reality of what I and other women and non-binary members of many gaming communities face. Okay. That may be true. Okay. I can't dispute the facts of that, but also, like I said earlier, be careful about anecdotes and data. Those two things don't necessarily correlate. I would also guard against speaking on behalf of other people who haven't co-signed your message, because not everybody's going to agree, and it's possible that even the majority of people aren't going to agree. But okay, let's carry on and see what the specific claims are. Here we have a picture of what appears to be a gamer who is a girl. She's sitting in front of a PC playing a game. Is that Counter-Strike, Jade? Can you verify that game is Counter-Strike?
I can. Yes, it is.
Nice. And that is Giuliano Curran of Sweden and Team Secret. I don't know what any of those things mean, but cool. Good for her. She's wearing some what looks like pro gamer gear.
She's a gamer, part of pro gaming team.
Nice. Good. Excellent. She'll probably kick my ass at that game.
Yeah, dude, I have no doubts. She looks really good. She's part of a team. She's paid to do that.
Right?
She looks like anybody.
Yeah, she looks like she's some kind of pro level tournament or something. That's impressive. She's got a nice rig there. That's a nice big screen. Looks like she's sponsored by Logitech and something or other games. And BenQ. Impressive. Nice. Good for her. All right, carrying on.
Go Julia.
What? Say again?
I said go Julia.
That's right. Go Julia. Cool. All right. Firstly, the perception that women are lesser players needs to be shot in the head.
I don't have that perception. Do you?
Yeah. Who has that perception?
Who has? Please point them out. We would like to know.
Yeah.
I don't think I know anybody personally that has that perception.
No, neither do I. Not that I can think of. No. I'm just trying to think where that perception might come from, and who might have it. I mean, it's when you're playing World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is my online game. Obviously, I don't play first-person shooters really, but I can certainly tell if I'm in a group with a female player versus a male player, simply because the behavior is a little bit different. Like if you've got a female tank, for example, in your party, you can see in the way that she'll ask for feedback on her tanking style. She'll apologize if she makes a mistake, that kind of thing. Whereas a male player will just be silent completely, and you just have to suck it up and
yeah, even though he messed up, he doesn't want to.
Yes, and that's not indicative of the player's skill or anything like that. It's just the style of interaction is slightly different, so you can often tell whether it's a male or a female player, not based on the skill, just based on the style of interaction. But I'm not sure where this idea that women players are not as good. But anyway, carry on. Kill it.
I think they. Sorry to interrupt. They get that perception because there's so many men, because women aren't seen in the gaming community. They're like, oh, they must think that. But is it not maybe what they think of themselves into this because I'm not good enough?
Maybe. Yes, that's true. That's true. She's not saying that it's men who assume that about women. She might be saying that women feel that they're not as good at playing.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe. You might be right about that. She doesn't specify. At least hasn't yet. Let's see. Kill it dead. If a woman does well at her chosen game, it's not because of luck, but rather skill and hours of practice. Sure, yeah. I mean, that's how you get good at gaming. Right, I don't disagree. I mean, look, I'm still trash at CSGO, but it takes hours and hours of practice to top the scoreboards, even in casual play. Yeah, sure. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Really true.
Yeah, I'm on the same footing as any other noob would be. That's true. You got to get good, scrub. You got to clean out your brain pan, and you got to get good. Some guys have this archaic idea that women are simply not as good as they are, or that losing to women comes down to luck.
I'm a pretty sore loser, so I think anybody who beats me, it came down to luck. Like, I don't care who you are, woman, man, I don't care what your race is, you suck, you got lucky.
Right, you just rolled that damn 20. If you hadn't rolled that 20, I would have whipped your ass. Yeah. Fair enough.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know where that came from.
No, I don't know anybody who's ever expressed this idea. I don't think I've met that person. Okay, but carrying on. All right. Secondly, women are not gaming to pick up men. We are not in the channel or room to be your tits and ass. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who would ever express this. I mean, to be clear, I've given this as advice to women who've asked me over the years, like, where do I find nice guys? Where do I go to pick up guys? And I've said, look, go to F&M, because there are so many guys there. You'll be able to take your choice of the litter. But as far as I know, none of them have ever taken me up on that advice. It's just never happened. Right? I mean,
are you trying to like advertise for like this company, this other company? Like,
yeah.
shout out to a nude magazine, guys.
Right.
You guys
Exactly.
rock. Sponsor this channel.
Yeah, please. But it's certainly never been my assumption that women are there to be picked up on. I mean, it's not a bar, right? If you go to a bar, you're going there to drink and to maybe hook up with somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a bar guy, but this is what I've heard, that this is what you do at a bar.
And to think that any of the people who are going to go play these games or play Magic is going to want to focus on anything else their games, especially if you've got like good prizes on the line.
Right.
I mean, I have a girlfriend, and I won't even take her to go play Magic with me or come watch me play Magic, because I know it will be a distraction. So it's like, I don't want to focus on other people or meet people. I want to focus on my game.
Right. And if you hate, I mean, it's nice to socialize with people and get to know people, and that's cool. And if that happens, then that's a bonus. But that's not why people are there, and I don't think anyone assumes that anyone else is there for that reason either. Maybe.
Can you imagine trying to play a Magic game while you're thinking about trying to get laid at the same time? Like,
Right.
that is just too much math.
That's how you lose.
That's how you lose. You try to calculate lethal, you forget to play a land. You know why?
That's lose the top. That's, yeah, no.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, I could have totally had it if I wasn't thinking about that shit. Yeah.
If finding a woman is a goal for you, join Tinder. Don't assume that we are single, straight, interested just because we are friendly in in-game chat. Sure, yeah, I don't disagree there.
What if I assume you're none of those things, but it's still a turn on?
I think you might be part of the problem, Jay. I think you might be the one that's talking about here.
That was too good. Okay, sorry. I'll be serious.
This happens at least once a session to me. Oh, okay. All right. That's the thing that Monique has seen. Sadly, it's the 1% of players that can make girls feel uncomfortable. Same applies to female cosplayers who don't get treated with respect.
Oh, those are two different things, I feel. Hey, cosplay and...
Okay. Let's deal with the first sentence there. I grouped two sentences together. That this is packed with meaning. Let's squeeze the juice out of the first sentence first before we move on to the second one.
Do it.
So sadly, it's the 1% of players that can make girls feel uncomfortable.
I agree.
That's probably true. And I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that it's the same 1% of players that make guys feel uncomfortable. Because people who are socially incompetent to everyone, girls and guys alike. The precise nature of how that incompetence manifests might be different whether the person is talking to a member of the same sex or a different sex, but incompetence is incompetence. If they're creepy and weird and inappropriate with one person, they're going to be creepy and weird and inappropriate with another person. But you don't see that chasing away the male players who show up for F&M. So are we suggesting that it's chasing away the female players?
Maybe if it's chasing away females, they should stop being so judgy. I mean, this guy just came, he wants to play his Magic game. Well, it's a little bit awkward. That's like a social issue.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jeremy Hambley on the Quartering, he put up a video. Was it the Quartering? It might have been Unsleeved Media. I forget which channel he's posting from on any given day. But he put up a video the other day where he's talking about this kind of thing. And he was saying that a lot of guys who play Magic they're nerdy, they're awkward, they're probably on the autistic spectrum, they probably are not well socialized. And when they come out to F&M, it might be that they're interacting with the only other people that they've seen all week. I know that's certainly been the case for me in the past.
Agreed, yeah.
And they're showing up there on a Friday night, and they're expecting to walk into a room full with nothing but men, because frankly most F&Ms are nothing but men. But then there's a woman there. Oh crap, there's a unicorn. and then of course they're going to be nervous about it. They're going to be a little bit uneasy and not sure how to act, and maybe they'll act inappropriately. Maybe they'll try to flirt awkwardly because they think that that's how you're supposed to behave towards women or some stupid crap like that.
Watch too many movies.
Right. Yes. No. Indeed. A lot of these guys do watch too many movies. They watch them for tips on how to interact with people because they don't have the instinct. They haven't been properly socialized or whatever it is. That may or may not.
James Kirk.
What you talking about? Jim Kirk. Jim Kirk had +5 charisma.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they like. Try to pick up all of his pickup. They try to use all his.
That's right. But James Kirk always won. Whenever he tried to pick somebody up, he always got it right because he's the captain.
Yeah,
that's right. But most of these guys are not the captain, and their attempts at socializing will fall flat. Now, that's not to say that we should just look the other way when that kind of thing happens. If somebody's being creepy and awkward and uncomfortable towards someone else, it's not cool. Nobody wants that, but literally nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be creepy and awkward at. And if they're being really disruptive, then it's up to you, the person who's the target of that unfortunate behavior, to bring it to somebody else's attention. The store owner or something like that is usually the kind of person that needs to take action against that.
Definitely. Like, if this is such a big issue, you should be constantly calling out people that are doing these to create safer spaces for females. So, like, if it's happening, don't be like, oh, some guy said this, or some guy did this. Like, call this person out. It's the best way to handle the situation, I feel.
I mean, just calling up my experiences as a store owner. I mean, you were also there, Jay, for a lot of those FNMs. We certainly saw some people who were socially awkward, didn't really know how to behave around other people. I'm thinking of one example in particular whose name I shall not mention, but I'm sure you can think who it is. Who was certainly...
I can think of so many.
there's one in particular who you know, but I'm not gonna.
Yes.
And this guy was really, really difficult to interact with, because when he was talking to women, he was trying to flirt awkwardly, but then when he was talking to men, he was just as awkward and just as uncomfortable, but he was just doing it differently. Instead of being flirtatious, he was trying to be jokey.
He was being very rude.
Yes, and sometimes very rude, and just didn't know how. And I don't think it was being malicious or trying to make anybody feel uncomfortable. He just didn't know how to do it. He was just doing it wrong. And I'll concede that it was very difficult to be around that guy. And there were certainly times that I was tempted to just ask him to leave. But I couldn't bring myself to do it because, frankly, it's not his fault that he's like that. And it's, look, it's hard to deal with. I didn't solve the problem. And I'm not sure if that problem has a solution, other than the people are. If you're a person who's showing up at an FNM or some equivalent thing, and you see somebody behaving like that, suck it up. Just grow a thicker skin like the rest of us did. I mean, frankly, you and I, Jay, we spent more time with that guy than any individual customer did, because there were nights where there were no other customers but him, and it was just you and me, or me and one of the other demigods, and we would have to sit with that guy the whole night because nobody else came. Because frankly, he chased away some of the other customers. I mean, that was the thing that happened. And although it was hard work, we sucked it up and we dealt with it, because it's the thing that you can.
Yeah, like unless the case is sort of very verbal or physical, until you're the victim of a crime, like maybe this person just doesn't know how to act normal when he's talking to you. You're making me extremely nervous, and so he pulls weird facial expressions. Just let it be. If don't interact with the person if you don't want to. It's kind of messed up, but if you don't want to, that's your choice.
Yeah, look, and even in a setting where you've got, let's say an FNM where you've got pairings in a tournament. If you ask the TO, look, please, I really don't want to be paired against this guy because he makes me uncomfortable, the TO will try as hard as he can. TO is the tournament organizer. The TO will try as hard as he can to try and manipulate the pairings in such a way that you don't come up against the guy, as long as he feels that you have a legit reason to feel that way and that you're not just trying to game the system. Obviously, that's a different story.
Aren't you victim blaming if he doesn't?
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm just thinking, how messed up is that? yeah, you're coming in second because you've had a really good run as a female in this tournament, and then you just turn around like, I don't want to play against first because he makes me feel uncomfortable. And so you get seated against someone who's had a worse run than you, who's probably going to lose. Maybe you know it's a good matchup. So that's easily open to abuse.
Yeah, that's true. It is open to abuse, but I mean, and I don't think you'd want to do that in a tournament setting where there are real stakes, like a proper money tournament or a PTQ or something like that. But in an FNM where the stakes are pretty low, I think it's okay to make a reasonable accommodation. To an extent. I think it's okay. I would have if somebody had asked me to do that. Okay, all right. Let's not get too far off into the weeds here. Let's carry on. We've got this next sentence here. The same applies to female cosplayers who don't get treated with respect. This is really complicated, and I've done some videos with Combo Kaiki about this exact thing, and she's done some other videos which I recommend are worth looking at, in which she explores this idea further. They don't get treated with respect. I'm prepared to go as far as saying that yes, there are some people, again a small minority, maybe 1%, maybe more than 1%, maybe 5%. Of people at a con, let's say Comic-Con Africa, who don't understand the rules of how you interact with somebody in cosplay. But that 1% is not male. That 1% is human, and it's going to be half male, half female. Because I've certainly, as a male cosplayer, especially one who shows up, shirtless and stuff, I've certainly encountered a number of women at conventions who also don't understand the rules of how you interact with a cosplayer.
You get all like touchy. Do they get all touchy? They want to touch your muscles.
Yeah, it's happened. Now I haven't been groped in ways that some of the other guys have, but other male cosplayers in the community have. They've been felt up and groped in sexual ways. That hasn't happened to me exactly, but a little bit. Sort of people putting their hands on you when they haven't been invited to. Like at any point, that's not a comfortable thing that you want. And people don't necessarily understand that those how those interactions are supposed to work. I'm not sure if that qualifies necessarily as being disrespectful. I suppose it could. I mean, it depends on where that's coming from. Disrespect could be a place where that's coming from, or it could just be again a place of not understanding, not knowing how to do it. Sort of social incompetence and not being able to navigate the complexities of social situations because they just don't have that skill.
Agreed, yeah, 100%.
But what about you, Jay? You did at least one cosplay where you were wearing a skin-tight outfit. I remember because I made you wear it.
Yeah, I went to the Spider-Man. It was rough because I don't know if I can say that.
I know.
Okay, how much of that did you get?
Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start all over. Like you.
Okay, well, yeah. Start from where you were, from the beginning of that. So you're telling us about your experience as a Spider-Man.
Yeah, like when you do your costume photos with you, so you walk around, people just want to take photos with you, and then you'll often get where the people you're taking a photo with, if people who get like they want to like be close to you and hold you close, and it's very uncomfortable when you're also in like a pose or something like that. And now I'm wearing tight, so I can see people staring at my crotch. It's super weird. Who does that? Who stares at Spider-Man's crotch? That guy's a kid. But you can see them doing it, and there's not much you can do about it. Like I walked around with this giant green cooler box bag in the front, so that people wouldn't stare at my crotch. It was so awkward. Yeah, it definitely does happen. I can imagine if you have a more revealing suit. It's like a battle line, a battle bikini, and people like touch your stomach and your back, and because you have no clothing there, you can skin and skin. You're like, oh, I'm being touched too much. It's very uncomfortable.
True story. All right, okay, but that's a whole other thing. Let's carry on. Next paragraph. Women aren't always playing because of their boyfriends. Sometimes women want to play because they enjoy the competition and winning. Now, okay, yes, that's true. However, I think it's fair to say that the majority of women who go to FNM are going because their boyfriends are there. They've gone with their boyfriends.
Definitely.
I mean, it's It's just not. It's just the facts. That's just true.
It is like I don't know many like I know so and then they're playing Magic. So I love bring their girlfriends, and they should be coming because of their boyfriends, so that we know that these guys or these people are promoting the game and growing the community.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to not be true of Monique. We know that Monique came to FNM on her own one night, and in fact, her current boyfriend, Michael, if I'm not mistaken, him to play Magic by bringing him to FNM one night. So it happens to not be the case in her situation. But the majority of the women that we saw at FNMs were there with their boyfriends. It's just a fact.
Yeah, like she is one case out of so many.
Yeah.
It's regrets to her too.
True story. Carry on. Making this assumption is not only sexist, it puts women on the back foot, further adding to the nonsense that they have to deal with while trying to enjoy their chosen hobby.
We haven't even got one yet. Well, like, got one. We haven't just like. Don't find. It's so.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why the assumption is sexist. Because it happens to be true so much of the time. Like if you see a woman at an FNM, and you assume that she's there with her boyfriend, you're going to be right at least 2/3 of the time, if not more often than that. I'm not sure that that's a sexist assumption. I think it's just based on observation. It's just
correct. You're not discriminating against them for being there. Like, oh, look at you, you're just a magic hoe. You go with guys with magic cards because they're rich. Like,
right.
You're not there for that.
No. So if somebody feels that having that assumption made about them puts them on the back foot, I think maybe you're misreading the situation. I think that if someone assumes that you're there with your boyfriend and that you're not there in your own right, I think that gives you a tactical advantage, because it means that they're underestimating your ability, which means that when you're facing them across the table, they're going to have a false confidence that you can then disabuse them of as soon as the first round is over. Right?
Correct.
I mean,
correct.
that's
Although I've never really thought of this woman I'm playing against as somebody's girlfriend, so that she's easier to beat.
Yeah, I mean that's not a valid assumption to make. I mean you can pretty quickly, once you're playing against somebody in Magic, you can tell after a game or two what their level of skill is. But then you're making that assessment about any opponent, whether it's a male or a female. That's not. I don't think that's a relevant assumption. I mean, it's just basic tactics. We're talking Sun Tzu. Rather have your opponent assume that you're a poor player if you're a good player. I mean, wouldn't we all want to do that? I mean, there's a whole game based around engendering those kinds of assumptions in your opponents. That's what poker is. It's all about trying to trick your opponents into thinking that you're in a worse position than you actually are, or conversely, trying to trick them into thinking that you're in a better position than you actually are.
I can totally imagine myself overplaying if I knew my opponent was playing counter spells but didn't know when. I would tap out every time.
Right.
And like if I'm making that my opponent, they can easily just like, well, I actually do know how to play this game. Sucks to be you.
All right, for real. Okay, carry on. Okay, making rude or crude comments is not going to make me leave or cry. This comes from the male entitlement complex, that the game is theirs and theirs only to enjoy and should not be ruined by the presence of a real female. Whew.
What's a real female?
Wow. This comes from the male entitlement complex. Wow. What is that? I don't even know what that phrase means. What is a male entitlement complex?
I'm as lost as you.
That the game is theirs and theirs only. Sure. Who
That's why we get booster packs at better rates.
Yes. Sure. Theirs and theirs only to enjoy. I don't know where this comes from. But let's carry on.
That's a pretty extreme statement to make.
Let me see. Maybe she explains it. Yeah, this is a dig at those guys who like having big boobs on their avatars. Um, I know that there are guys like that. I'm not like that. I like my avatars to look like me, if possible, and I don't have big boobs, so my avatars tend not to. But I know there are guys who like to who choose their avatars in World of Warcraft specifically. They like to have an attractive female avatar because that you're constantly looking at the one avatar, so you may as well make it attractive. I get that reasoning. It's not. I don't like that.
I completely get that too.
I understand it. I understand it.
Have you seen the Tauren females? Whoop, whoop.
You would say that, horde player. Jesus.
I take my pretty little night elf. Like I said, Thunder Bluff.
God. All right. I'm not easily put off by this sort of nonsense, fortunately, and find it most of the time amusing. Well, yes. So this is going back to the beginning there, making crude or rude comments. Should be found amusing. I think that's usually how they're intended. They're supposed to be. So when I see crude or rude comments made in a gaming context, they're typically either just people making rude jokes and perhaps not figuring out that this is not the appropriate context for that kind of thing. Again, coming back to that particularly socially awkward guy who used to come to the club, he would sometimes do this. He would make really inappropriate jokes. But I think
while playing a game of Magic and he insult you throughout.
Yes, and then there's that also thing which is trash talk, which is it's a kind of tactic really, where you're trying to distract your opponent by insulting them, frankly, by being rude, by being crude, and putting them off their game, which then gives you a technical advantage. That's a normal thing. In most competitive activities that I'm familiar with. There are certain ones where it's just not done. You don't do it in chess, for example. You tend not to converse with your opponent during chess. And in the more sort of competitive levels of Magic, in the big tournaments, I don't see people doing that. But in casual Magic, all the time, in Commander especially, that's one of my favorite tactics in Commander, as a matter of fact. Heraclix, how many times did I call you a little girl when we were playing Heraclix? I still will. Next time we play, I'll do it again.
All the time. Little girl be like, attack me, you pussy, and I'm like, wow, dude. Like, guys.
Right.
He goes for the throat.
Right, and I'm not doing it because you're female. You are female, is that correct? I don't want to assume your gender.
Don't assume my gender, please.
I'm just guessing. I was asking for verification. I'm doing that because you're my opponent, and I know that this is a tactic that works against you. It's a thing that I like to explore when I'm playing against new opponents. Is I'll push the boundaries on this tactic versus this tactic versus this tactic. Sometimes being overly nice is distracting, so I'll be overly nice to that person.
It's awkward,
right? Sometimes
like this giant comes, hey, how are you? That's nice.
Right, exactly.
Like,
people find it.
It's a bit weird.
They find it unsettling, and that works. Or sometimes just being completely silent, that works too, because they want to have a conversation. And if I feel like my opponent is being too chatty, I'll just claim up. I'll not talk to them at all, because that's what they want. It makes them uncomfortable. It puts them off. At least that's what I try to do. I can't claim that I have 100% success rate with these kinds of psychological meta tactics, but it's a thing I try to do. What about you, Jay?
What tactics do I try?
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I go like throughout the different stages. I've met people that if I was super nice, I put them off by being super nice to see, like we'll shout across the room at each other while we're playing Hearthstone. So like just saying nice things like, "Oh, dude, great card!" Like, no, dude, that was a great play. And so focused on having that conversation, they get put off. So yeah, I definitely like trying different tactics, but being friendly is my go-to one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So being rude or crude, I don't think that's ever a way to try and get your opponent to leave or cry. I don't think that's the point. I think it's to get your opponent to maybe destabilize them a little bit, just distract them just enough so that they'll make a mistake, so that you can take advantage of the situation. Either it's
100%, yeah.
It's either that sort of a cynical attempt to do that, or it's just being inappropriate because you don't know any better. I can't think of a situation in which I've ever tried to be rude to somebody to get them to leave. That's not a thing that I would do.
I don't know. Like, would you do that in a competition so that you can cut down the competition? When do you feel it's suitable?
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely try my sort of psychological tactics in a higher end tournament, but I'd probably do it in a more subtle way than I would in a casual event, just because people are trying to concentrate and you can't get too loud and boisterous.
Correct.
Anyway, all right, carrying on.
But up in the casual scene.
Yeah. There are also others who will shoot the guy down without me having to step in. Without me having to step in? Well, I usually will anyway because I fear nothing. Also, all I usually have to do is rank higher than them and they will rage quit the server. Having to step in.
You must be playing with a lot more people. Like, you must be playing with a lot of people if you can get them to replace the queues.
Yeah.
You're getting guys to drop, because that's a lot of games to play with a lot of different people.
Yeah. But having to step in, I'm not sure what stepping in looks like. Are we talking Bully Hunters level deal here, where you have to call somebody to come and show up and gank the noob for you, or I don't understand what stepping in looks like.
No, she's talking about all the White Knight keyboard warriors.
Okay.
That, like, one guy says something. Ooh. When one person says something in the text box, and everybody goes and bombards that person for insulting who they know is a female. So I think those White Knights are the weirdos that you're trying to avoid.
Also, all I usually have to do is rank higher than them and they will rage quit the server. I don't really know what that looks like either, but okay. Okay. In the past week alone, I have had salty male players make reference to body parts of not just myself but other ladies in game. One special person also called two of us fat, hoping to upset us. Yeah, that's called playing online.
Playing online is horrible. Even like in friendly games, the trash talk to whoever you are is horrible.
Yeah, I mean that happens to me literally every day as well. And I'm a male player with a male avatar and not pretending to be anything other than a male player. This is simply what playing online looks like. It's got nothing to do with being a female gamer. My response, and then there's a gif here. So I took the shotgun off the wall and I fired 2 warning shots into his head.
Great. This just incite violence towards men.
Well, it's a first-person shooter. That's violence is kind of required. So yeah, that's what you do. If somebody trash talks you, you kill them or you beat them or whatever. That's how you handle that. That's the correct response. But this is not a gendered thing. This is just gaming. That's how that works. I mean, the fact is when you're playing games online, it's quite different to playing Magic, where you're sitting face to face with another person. There's a certain level of accountability when you're sitting in the same room with a person, looking them in the eye. When you're playing online, it's completely anonymous. You don't know who that other person is. They don't know who you are. They're free to insult you and say whatever they want, and there are no consequences, no meaningful consequences anyway.
You can report the person, but that's about it. And if that person gets reported enough, they get banned. But like you said, you don't know if that person on the other side is male or female, or if because the avatar can't represent that, the text in the text box can't represent that. So how can, let's say, if women are being the target of these attacks, these rude things, then how do you know it's just not a woman doing it to a woman?
Yes, quite right, exactly. Yeah, there's no way of knowing that the so-called male player on the other end is necessarily male. I suppose.
Yeah, you have no idea. And just as he doesn't know or she know that you're female unless you're publicizing it.
Yes, or I suppose it's possible if you're using voice chat, but I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't think most people use voice chat unless you're on a team with somebody, but maybe that's different in Counter-Strike. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so continuing. The intimidation factor of being in the 5% or less minority is real. I can see how that might be the case. I mean, if I walked into a room and there were 20 women in the room and I was the only man, I can see how that could be intimidating. In fact, that's happened to me in the cosplay community, which is cosplay is female dominated, and it can be intimidating. But the intimidation doesn't really come from being the only man in the room. It comes from the sheer skill of the women in the room, just how good they are. Yeah, I'm not sure that's necessarily a gender thing
I,
either.
my opinion on this is that men's fault or your fault that you get intimidated? I mean,
Right.
these men in any way shown aggression to you so
Mm.
far for the first time. And so I think it's just about the situation, like this idea of how they're going to treat you and your
Mm.
expectation of them. This is your own expectation. So I feel like you're just putting yourself in an intimidated posture.
Maybe. So she carries on. 2 years ago, I qualified and played in the nationals for Magic. I was one of only two girls who completed in a field of 150 players. I think we know the other girl, but maybe we shouldn't mention her name. But yes, yeah, that was quite an achievement. That was pretty awesome. I mean, I didn't qualify for that, and that was really cool. Good job on you, Monique. It's scary and intimidating, and immediately puts one on the defensive. I don't understand why that would be the case.
No, why were you afraid?
Yeah, I mean, the reason you're there, and because you're qualified, like you're as qualified, you have as much a right to be there as every one of the men in that room. Unless you think that you didn't deserve it, like I would understand if you felt like you hadn't legitimately earned your qualification into the tournament, that might be intimidating. Now, again, I'm not trying to disqualify anybody's subjective experience. If you felt intimidated, you felt intimidated. That's not for me to decide. But I think it is worth considering. Is this a rational response to that situation? Was there any actual reason for one to feel intimidated, or is this just an arbitrary subjective reaction to a situation that actually doesn't really warrant it?
Yeah, agreed.
Here we go. This is a feeling I can guarantee no male player has ever felt, ever. Yo, okay.
Well, don't assume my feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I feel intimidated playing walk to an FNM, and I know the three guys there that are like super, and I get paired up against them first round. You know how intimidating that is.
Well, this is it. I mean, I had a strong feeling of being of intimidation a few weeks ago when I joined a new cross guild raiding team and we went into heroic Uldir for the first time. I was intimidated not only because I knew that the dungeon was really hard and that I wasn't quite sure if my gear was entirely up to scratch and if my skills were up to scratch, but I'd never played with these guys. I didn't know how good they were. For all I know, they were way better than me, and they were going to look down on me because my skills weren't up to scratch. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
I felt intimidated. This is a thing I've experienced. Turns out I did okay. But the only way I could run that experiment and find out whether or not that intimidation, that response was justified or not, was to play the tournament. And well, it wasn't a tournament, but run the dungeon. We ran it, and I came out feeling okay about it afterwards. It turns out that I did deserve my place in that team on that occasion, but it's possible that I might not have. We ran a raid last night with the same group of guys, but on different characters, a different raid. We did the Black Temple time walking, and I was using one of my ults, but with time walking, that should be okay. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. If that had been my first instance with that group, I don't think I would have been able to show my face with those people again. Luckily, they know that on my Demon Hunter, I'm better than I am on my Paladin, so I'll be able to show up for this week's Uldir Heroic and not have to hang my head in shame. But intimidation in a new setting, that's not an uncommon feeling for anybody. Just because you're not weeping in despair doesn't mean that you're not experiencing a sense of intimidation. And again, it's if we're talking about intimidation just because you're in a new situation and you don't know what's going to happen, perhaps anxiety is a better word than intimidation. It's not the same as saying I'm intimidated because I'm the only person of X in the room. Well, because all of us are in a minority of some kind or another. In most rooms, I'm the only person over 6'3" in height. I'm in a pretty small minority of people, top 98th percentile, I think it is, of people who are as tall as I am. But I don't really find that intimidating, being the only tall person in the room. In Cape Town, for some reason, everybody's really short, so I'm usually like a head taller than everybody else. But I don't find that intimidating. That's not a thing that's not a reasonable response, I don't think.
Yeah, like don't blame other people for your. Can't blame them for your own insecurities, whatever they may be.
Sure.
So yeah, and I guess you make a fair point. It's like when you're tall, If the only like if you're the only person wearing red in the place, you can't use that as a justification for how you feel and then blame others for it.
Right, right. There's another situation. Being in South Africa, being a white person is a minority, and I took a bus up to Joburg a week or two ago, and I went into the Cape Town bus station, and I'd been sitting there for about half an hour because when a sense of awareness came upon me, and I kind of looked around and I realized that I was the only white person in sight. The station was full, hundreds, thousands of people, and I was the only white person. I stuck out like a sore thumb. It didn't make me feel intimidated. I just thought, oh, wow, okay, I guess I'm the only white person here. Right? It didn't stop me from getting on the bus.
You get to decide what intimidates you.
Yeah.
That's like the idea.
Carrying on. Same can be said for being the only girl in-game on CSGO, though there are a few more girls than I was expecting who play. Yeah, okay, that's just more of the same. My advice if you're a girl wanting to play, put your emotional Kevlar on and do it. Yes. Suck it up. Don't care what others think, as their comments probably stem from their own insecurities. Maybe.
Whoa! I feel like she did say probably, but what if they truly disagree?
Yes. Yeah.
She's just stopping the conversation. If this is such a big spoken about, as we're doing, and yeah, she's just trying to stop it. Like my word is final. Still.
No. But yeah, okay. So if people are trash talking you, whatever, it might not be coming from a place of insecurity, but it might be, and if so, that's their problem. You know, it's the problem of the person speaking. It's not your problem. You don't have to put up with that. You don't have to internalize what other people say to you.
Yeah, I've had insecurities when I played like LAN events for Hearthstone whatever game, and I've seen it with other people too, where you can't put money, like large amounts of money into the game like other players have who are competing at the same level as you. You go, oh, you're just paid to win, right? So that's your own insecurity.
Right.
I faced it. I've seen many people face it. So yeah, you can't just let it get to you.
True story. Yeah, no, ideal. Keep at it. Get good. Get better. Kick ass. Yes. 100% agree. If you're the kind of person who allows somebody's socially inept comments to chase you away from a game, maybe that's not the game for you.
Sorry, I just want to add, like, have you seen the Dota community in South Africa? The Dota 2, it is horrible, and like, it's not bad for females.
Right.
Like there are racist people in there. There are people who are trying to stop it and trying to put an end to it. But the way the men interact with each other, you think you are being somehow emotionally abused. These guys are so awful. It's hard. Just go to Dota 2 and have a look. Really.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, thinking about the Magic community, because that's the one community where I've had the opportunity to sort of sit on the outside and look in. Not just Magic, but like Cardfight Vanguard is another one. There's a smaller community, but it was happening at the club, and we were able to observe. Sometimes I was in the tournament and I was playing. Sometimes I was able to sit at the counter and observe what was going on. And if anything, I found that the male players in the game, in both games, were nicer to the female players than they were to each other. They were offering advice, which they wouldn't have offered to other male players, perhaps unsolicited, and maybe that's rude, but it's coming from a place of wanting to be friendly and nice. They were giving them free cards. I mean, that happens so often. Like, oh, you like this card? Here, just have it. Whereas,
it's my shiny, and then they goes $100.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if it had been another male player, they would have been like, oh, you want this card? Cool, that'll be $100, please. I mean, this is a thing that happens so often. Is women in these games, once it becomes known that they're actually women, they get treated so much better than they do as male players. And yes, there there are incompetent and awkward guys who don't know how to behave around other people, and maybe there are sort of weird, freaky, misogynist types who like to pick on women because that's how they get their jollies. Maybe that exists. I haven't seen it, but maybe it happens.
And this goes back to what you said about them not having the right like social ability, and so they don't know any better. And because they've ruined some sort of trust, some relationship with the males, because that's who they predominantly spend their time with. At these events, they don't know how to interact with you, and they know what not to do. They just don't know how to not do it right.
Right. No, indeed.
Yeah.
All right.
So, geez, a lot to unpack.
True story. But okay, all right. So that's the end of the article. So we've gone through all of that, and I see there's no comments there for us to go through. I know there were some comments on Facebook, but I'm not going to go hunt those down. Right. So that's the article. I think we've said what we wanted to say. I'm still reading a little bit from the apparent unironic use of the word mansplaining.
Okay, we're gonna go back to that.
Where was that?
It's right at the top. It's I believe number 3, paragraph 3. Before paragraph 4 before your keyboard warriors. That's it.
Yeah, because that's sure. I mean, I know that that's a.
So what do you think she would define as mansplaining? Like, how do you think she defines it with this?
So look, I mean, there's a common definition for what mansplaining is. That this is supposedly a thing that men do, where they explain to other people. Okay, according to the definition, when they explain to women something that they already know. Thing is, this is first of all that men don't explain things only to women. Men explain things to other men too, whether or not they know it. It's just a way of exploring the idea and perhaps bringing the other person up to speed. And secondly, it's not only men who do that. Women do it all the time as well. So the use of the word...
My mother.
Right, yeah.
All the time. I mean, like, you see that as a valid example of what a woman would do.
Right. So casting this as a thing that only men do, specifically men do, and it's done to women, that's just a misandrist trope. I'm not easily offended. You have to get up pretty early in the morning to do or say something that actually offends me. But this comes pretty close to that. I mean, I've seen this word used ironically in plenty of occasions, and it's usually always funny. But I feel like this is Monique not using it ironically, and I'm having a hard time processing that. Like, is this really an opinion? Or is this really a position that you hold, that mansplaining exists? Is there an actual real thing in the world? Because, damn.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things that they'll say, well, if you can't acknowledge that you do it, then you're just oblivious to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because you don't say it's true doesn't mean it's not true. It's one of those things. You're like, wait. Mansplaining is a myth. Change my mind.
Whatever you say, Stephen Crowder. Has he done that one? I don't even know. He probably has.
No, he hasn't. Oh, dude, I watch all of his shows. He hasn't.
Hasn't he? Okay.
You got male privileges in it. That was a good one.
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, mansplaining is sort of part of that male privilege thing, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to understand how these things work. But I mean, what the unironic use of that word tells me is that there's more than a touch of infestation by let me choose my words carefully. By third or fourth wave intersectional feminism, social justice rhetoric.
Ooh, slow down. Trigger.
Yeah, damn, I forgot to put up the trigger warning at the beginning. Oh,
yeah. We will do it. We can just edit it in.
That's true. I'll put it in the description. For people who read the description, they'll get it. Nobody else will. But yeah, I mean, I find that troubling. Not because there's anything any other content in this piece that's specifically all that objectionable. Just because if that's part of Monique's thinking, then I'm nervous about what's still coming. Like what more is there to be said? What hasn't been said yet in this piece that's still coming out of Monique's out of her pen, out of her keyboard in the future. But
she's writing this with hatred intent. Like she already has something against males in this book. Well, she already has something against men. Like I hate men for men to put words. That's the idea that I get. And so she's already writing this with anger to men. And so she can just use that to power her through the whole thing. And like you said, who knows what she could write next? Like where does anger could drive her?
Yeah. Okay. But let's not make assumptions about what Monique might do someday. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and hope that was just a literary slip of the tongue. We've been at this for just over an hour now, so we should probably give our poor viewer, if there's anybody out there.
Thank you for watching.
Yes, indeed. This has been great. Let's call it there. But let's do this again, Jay. Next time you find a fun article, send it to me, and we'll do some more of this kind of thing and see if this is something that people want to watch. If people want to find you on social media, Jay, where do they go to do that?
They can just go add me on Facebook. Really, I have Instagram, but it's the Esco. So if you want to Instagram me, I'll start using it more.
Say that again. You broke up for a second. Where is that?
The Eskimo.
The Eskimo what?
Dot. Full stop. Co.
The Eskimo.co.
Yes. Okay, you'll find it in the description.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Yeah, I'll put links.
I'll send it to you because
that's
and then also just Facebook. And I hope this starts more conversations, and I hope that when we have more conversations, other topics, that it starts to grow. Because this is like something that we're both passionate about this community.
True story. Yeah,
we've been a part of it for a long time. We've done a lot of things. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's been something that's interested me for a long time as well. About as long as I've been involved in the community is why this weird disparity in Magic in particular. Why it's such a majority male activity. I mean, I think you remember back in the first year or so of the club, we noticed that this was a thing, and we thought that maybe if we start a separate club for girls to come and play Magic, a girls only Magic, then maybe women would come to the club and play Magic where there weren't these pesky men around to intimidate them. So we tried that. We set it up. We ran it on a Saturday.
You did.
I remember the first one woman came. The second week, zero women came. We kept running it for another 3 months. Every week after that, not a single woman came after that first time.
No, and we advertised it. We tried to run ads for it, and this was we listened to the concerns and we could see some sort of idea. But then when we realized that women aren't coming to these things, even if we're offering them something that they wanted, and nobody actually supports it and helps it grow.
This is it.
Strange that.
I'm not going to assume. I mean, we didn't really ask anybody why they didn't come. I remember when we first started posting the ads for it. When we first came up with the idea, we got a lot of positive response on Facebook. People saying, "Oh, this is such a cool idea! I can't wait to come." But then none of those people showed, and they never told us why they didn't show. I could guess, but I'd only be speculating, and it's probably best if I refrain from that. But maybe some of our viewers have some ideas about why that might be the case. So if you want to talk about that, here just below my face here is a link to our Discord. I'm there and Jay's there. Just look for him. He's the Eskimo, or just Eskimo. Or we have a bot who's actually the new Jay. So you can just talk to new Jay instead of Jay. He's pretty
new Jay doesn't know as many words. It took me a while.
He's pretty much the same. I mean, it's interchangeable.
So yeah, I have one more thing. Like you said in the beginning, we know quite a few people within the geek community, and I don't know anybody is actively rude to females in general at gaming events online. So if you do know somebody, and if you have been a victim of something, like you said you are, don't be some guy say, like, start calling these people out, because then we'll be able to start, like, removing them from the community. We don't tolerate racism, we don't tolerate sexism, and we want everybody to have a good time. This is what all Magic players want. Yeah, don't be quiet about it.
That's true. Name and shame. I mean, if you've got screenshots of people doing shitty things to you in game, post that on my Discord. We want to see that. And then if we know the person is in the Discord, then we can give them a hard time about it, or we can ban them, or we can gang up on them like Bully Hunter style. Bully Hunter for the win. Did you see that?
Or we can have a conversation about, we can just talk about what happened and how we can stop it from happening.
That might be more constructive. Yes. That's probably a better idea.
I don't like Bully Hunter. Like, that sounds like a low word.
Probably is. Probably is not a sustainable proposition. Maybe that's why it didn't work out. But yeah, like I said, Jeremy Hambley on I think it was on Sleeve Media couple weeks ago posted a video about this kind of thing. If I remember, I'll put a link to that video in the description. It's worth a look. I mean, Jeremy Hambley is he's a somewhat abrasive individual, but I think his heart's in the right place, and he has some ideas about this topic that's worth looking at, worth thinking about. So I'll try and post that there. But yeah, you can find us on Discord, and if you're interested in talking about this some more, maybe we can do a follow-up episode at some point. Otherwise, we'll just talk about something else.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it then. Cheers, everybody.
Great. Thanks. Cheers, man.
SWAT out.